Thank you very much for joining us today. Today we're going to be talking about Excel, and we're going to be really diving deep into the basics. We're not really going to go that deep into the tool as far as extreme functionality, as far as pivot tables and stuff like that. But what we're going to do is go deep into basics, so you can get a nice firm foundation for building upon in the future. So what we're going to talk about today, again, is creating an Excel workbook. So we've all done, created brand new items, but we're going to talk about how you can create an Excel workbook from scratch, or we also have a wide variety of templates available to us. So we'll talk about creating a new Excel workbook, and then we'll start including our data. So again, what we're going to create today is a budget, and it's great for working with numbers. And again, Excel is amazing, has amazing functionalities, and we can see right there we'll use Excel functions right after we include our data. We'll go through each of our functions that we have available to us. So summing up totals, we'll do averages, we'll do some great stuff working with functions that are available. We'll also, after that, we'll create and build a chart and table. So we'll create a table of our data and then create a chart based off of that table. After that, we'll store it securely to our OneDrive, because again, if we just share out and send out an Excel in an email, well, that's not really doing us any good, because each person will then have their own copy of it. And if they start to make changes to it, well, now they have their own copy. They're not making any changes to my original. So we'll save it out to OneDrive, then we'll share and collaborate, and we'll talk about how we can do that. So again, Excel is a very powerful tool. I'm excited to be here today, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to create an Excel workbook. Now, we're all used to this, so let me go out and create a brand new Excel spreadsheet. So I have Excel open right here, and I want to create a brand new one. Well, I could do this many ways. I could just go down into my File Explorer and create a brand new Excel spreadsheet, but I'm going to do this just from an open Excel workbook that I already have open. So in order to create a brand new Excel spreadsheet, we're going to click on File. Once we've clicked on File, we're going to click on New. So we're going to click on New, and we'll see a bunch of options that we have available for us. Now, just like most Microsoft products, we have some templates built in. So let's say you're building out a family budget or personal expenses. We can see we already have templates available to us within Excel. So we've got even a to-do list over here. We've got calendars, but we can see right up here in the upper left-hand corner, I've got a blank workbook. Now, also from here, if you have created items in the past, you want to reuse anything that you've done in the past. In this case, we have personal items. So you can always look up your personal templates if you saved them previously. But in this case, I don't have a template that I want to use. I want to create something just from scratch. In this case, I'll go in and click on blank workbook. This will create a brand new Excel spreadsheet for me. You'll see it'll drop us in there, and now we are in that Excel spreadsheet. Now that we've created that brand new Excel spreadsheet, let's start working with our data. So again, like we mentioned, we wanted to create a budget in this case. We've got different household categories. We've got different work categories. We just want to include our budget. Maybe we've got budget for several different months. Okay, so let's start plugging in our data and see how we can work better with this information. All right. So I've got my Excel spreadsheet. The first thing I want to do is I want to include titles up at the top, because even though we don't have a table necessarily right now, we want to be able to have these categorized appropriately. So in this case, in this first column, again, within Excel, things are highlighted by their column and then their row. So in this case, we can see in the upper left-hand corner, we've got A1. So this is spot A1. So column A, row 1. So in this case, I want this to be categories, and then I want it to be, and then if I want to move over to the right, I hit tab. So once I've entered in my data, if I were to hit enter, it goes down below. If I hit tab, it goes to the next row over to the right. So in this case, I have categories. Then let's see what else we want to plug in there. Maybe we want to start plugging in our months for our budget. So we have a category for our budget. and maybe let's put title as well, just so I know what exactly this is being budgeted for. And then let's plug in our calendar. So let's say right now, let's start in January. And I could type out every single month if I wanted to, but within Excel, we have the ability to auto-complete these items. So in this case, I've entered in January. That's all I've entered in. If I want to include all the way out to December, I can just grab in the bottom right-hand corner and drag it over. And you can see as I start to drag it over, at the very bottom of my cursor, it says the month. So in this case, it says October. If I want to go all the way to December, I can drag it that far, and I can let go, and you can see it'll automatically populate each one of those columns for me. So now we have January through December. That was a lot easier than me typing in every single one of those months. So we can see it's a lot easier already. Now, let's start entering in some more data. So in this case, let's go over here to categories and start including some of those categories we talked about. So maybe we have car, and then home, and let's see, utilities. So these are our upper level items that we want to cover. So we've got car, home, and our utilities. Well, obviously utilities can be lots of different things. It can be our power, it can be our gas, it can be anything like that, water. In this case, that's where we start to go even deeper when we start to talk about our title. So for car, maybe it's just our car payment, whatever our car payment provider is. Home, again, it's our mortgage. But then we start to talk about utilities. Maybe this is our gas, and then we've got water. So again, if I want to move down to the cell right below, hit enter, and we can do it some more. So we've got gas, water, and then let's do electric. Now, if I wanted to copy a cell, because obviously water and electric are both part of the utilities. If I want to copy those, I can just simply right-click on that cell. If I could. There we go. I'll right-click on the cell, and I can copy that cell. If you copy a particular cell, we'll see a little box will go around that cell. And if I wanted to copy it in multiple places, I just select the two cells that I want it to go to, in this case, for both water and electric, and then right-click again. And then in this case, I'm just going to paste. And we can see it will copy over utilities. So if I had selected the rest of this entire spreadsheet and then just pasted, utilities would be in every single one of those cells. So it's an easy way to paste in particular information that you want across multiple cells. All right, we've got our categories there for car, home, utilities, and we've got our titles for those particular items. We can start to see that this car payment is a little bit wider than the column space that we provided. In that case, if you want to maximize the column width to the largest item that you have within that column, you can just simply go up to that in between the two columns and then double click. When you do that, it'll go to the maximum size of the largest item that you have within that column. So you can see that now car payment is completely within the column, whereas before it was kind of cut off. All right, so now that we've created our categories, we've got our titles, we're starting to get pretty close here to a nice looking budget. So in this case, let's start entering in some actual information for our car payment, our mortgage, our gas, our water and electric. So as far as car payment goes, that one's a pretty static one, right? This is one that occurs often. We have a set amount that we have to pay. So in this case, let's say we have a $250 car payment. I'll just enter in $250 and press enter. Well, right now, I don't necessarily like the way that looks because it just says $250. It does not say $250. It does not say anything else. It just has $250. What you can do, you can format numbers within Excel. So what I want to do, obviously everything within this area from January all the way to December and then all the way down to electric, all of those items, those are all going to be cash. So it's all going to be money. So I need to have this designated as that. So I can select the cells that I want, and again, up on the Home tab, over here, we can see right here is number. Well, by default, you can see it says general right now. It doesn't say anything else. Well, I want to change this. So from the drop down, I could change this to be a number with 2 decimal points, or I can change it to be currency, or even if we're doing it in accounting, maybe it's stuff that's going out. We want to differentiate between our income and our expenditures. Well, in that case, I could use accounting. But now, as my family budget, I am not that advanced. So in this case, I just like to keep track of how much the cost is. So in this case, I'm just going to have it be currency. So I've selected the entire area that I want to designate as currency, and then select currency. And we can see that 250 that I entered earlier now changes to currency. So now everything else that I enter in within this area will be changed to currency automatically rather than just being a number. So it's a great way for us to do that. So now I'm going to copy this number across all of these columns. Because again, car payment static, usually in most cases. So in this case, I could copy it, and again, like we did previously, I can go over and I can paste. I could do that. Or in this case, I can again do what we did before up on the very top where we did January through December. I can grab 250 and then drag overall to December. So then we can see that 250 is now across everything. Same thing goes for our mortgage payment. These are usually pretty static for us too. So in this case, I'll put 1,500. We can see it doesn't matter how I type it in, it will automatically go to currency for me. I select that number and then drag it again throughout. But now as we start to get to gas, water, and electric, these are things that change month over month. So we need to be aware of that and adjust accordingly. So in this case, I am going to put 100 for water, and then 125, 150. So we can start to see where this goes. So as you can see, we go from 100 to 150. As we start to get to spring months and maybe landscaping, water comes on, that's where we're starting to get more water usage. In this case, you can see I've started to enter in this data. We can see each one has a plus 25 on there. Well, if I want to continue that again, what I want to do is I want to select everything that's been happening before, and if I start to drag it out, you can see it continues that process. So you can see all the way to May and June and July, it goes up to 250. Well, let's do that until August, and then let's say we start reducing the amount of our bill. So it goes to 275 max in August, and then it comes back down to 150 in September, and then 125 in October. So we start to see it go down. In that case, I want to select 150, 125, and then it continues on that process too. So again, we can see, there we go. It now goes 100 up to 275 in August, then 150 down to 75 there in December. So we can see, we can adjust as we go along. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other items above and below. So if you want to copy over all of the data, select it all, go up to a particular area. Now, here's the interesting part. Wherever we have selected this data, wherever we want it to start, we select that cell. So in this case, I want gas, again, to start in January. So I select the January column. And then I right-click and paste. Now, if I had accidentally selected February, or in this case, March, maybe I accidentally clicked March for my electric bill. If I were to right-click and paste, look at that. My data fills in from that cell forward. So you do have to be aware of where your cursor is, what cell you have selected, if you start to paste additional data. But in this case, I'm going to take these 2 columns or 2 items on the far right. If you want to move items, instead of right-clicking and copying, you could always right-click and cut. You could always cut data. So in this case, if I click cut, you can see again, we get that nice little outline of our cells. I can go over to January, right-click, and then paste. And you can see it moves those cells from the far right back into our information on the left-hand side. So now we've got a nice budget here where we've got our categories, our titles, and we've even got it organized here by month of all the information that we need for our data. All right. Now that we've got our information in there, we want to start using Excel functions. These are the functions that we'll use to, obviously, we could see within our budget, we want to start adding up how much we're going to be spending per month, how much we're going to be spending in a particular category. We can easily do this with Excel functions rather than, trying to set up a calculator off to the side and plugging in each one of those items individually. We don't have to do that. Again, Excel does all that work for us. So let's start going out there and looking at that information, see how we can better use those functions. All right. So right here in our budget, we want to create a total at the bottom, so we can have an idea of how much we're spending per month, so we can organize our budget that way. So in this case, I want the bottom to be total. But now total is not a category. We want total to be just an area of its own within this table. So in this case, I want total to be across these two cells. How can we do that? At any time, you can always merge and center any cells within Excel. So in this case, I want total to be on the bottom. I want it to take up those two cells because I don't want to put total in categories and then total in title. So in this case, I'll select both of the cells, or if I had more cells than that, I could select as many cells as I want and then merge them together. So in this case, I'm going to select total and then the one next to it. And then up on the Home tab, we can see right here under alignment, we have merge and center. So if I click on merge and center, we'll see now that total has taken up both A7 and B7 and combined them together. And so now we have just one cell there that has title in the title, I guess. Total in the title. So now we want to start using those functions to our better ability. One thing that a lot of people don't know, if you go into Excel, you want to see the totals, running totals for certain items. I can select multiple cells, and without even running any functions, the bottom right-hand corner of Excel, it'll say, hey, you've selected two items in this case. We can see that the sum right now is $1,750, so $1,750, and the average is $875. So it automatically provides us these calculations as we go along. But what I want to use is I want to start using those functions that are available to us. All right, so right here under January, obviously the big thing you would want to do is you would want to have an auto sum, like a sum of everything that's going on. Well, I could, again, highlight all these and just enter in $2,050, but again, that wouldn't be helping us. And what if, as the month comes along, any one of these other items changes? It starts going up, it starts going down. Well, now I have to recalculate everything by hand. Well, I want Excel to do the work for me. I don't want to have to go in and update these later on. So again, on the Home tab within Excel, we can see over to the right in editing, we have the ability to auto sum for us. Again, we can see if we hover over auto sum, it'll give us a little bit of information on what happens, but it also gives us the quick key. So we can always hit Alt plus and the equal sign, and then it'll automatically auto sum a certain area for us. But in this case, I'm even lazier than doing the quick steps, so I'm just going to click on auto sum. So I've selected the cell that I want my auto sum to appear in, and then I click on auto sum. And we can see over here under January, it has selected the area, and you can see it says equals to sum, and then it selected all those cells. If I want to adjust that, this is where I can do it. I can then go up here. You can see in the outline of this box, we have the corner. So just the same way that we were able to copy totals across multiple areas, we have the ability to do that here by adjusting the auto summing. So we can select different cells. You can see the number adjust down there in my auto sum area. But in this case, obviously, I want every single thing within January to be included. That looks good. I can just hit enter. You can see it automatically does that for me. Well, again, I could go through each one of these cells, click on that cell, and then go over here to AutoSum. Again, I could do the same process for everything, or just the same way that we did for January, February, March, we were able to extend that out and it automatically filled it in for us. We can do the same thing for functions. So in this case, I obviously want sum to be across every single one of my months. Well, in that case, again, click in the bottom right-hand corner of any of those selected cells, and if I drag it over, we'll see, oh, look, the number has changed. That's because we can see if we click on that particular cell, it updates to be that particular column. So now I can easily go and right-click or left-click on the cell, bottom right-hand corner of it, and then drag it across every single one of my months. And we can see there that that information then expands out and it updates accordingly. So it's a great and easy and fast way to update our tables with our functions that we have available. Now let's start talking about, okay, we've got our totals here for each of our months, but we also want to have a total for each category. So in this case, we want to have a total for our car payment, a total for our mortgage, a total for our gas. We can do the same thing that we did on the bottom as we can on the far right. So let's include a total on the far right also. So we've got a total column on the far right-hand side, and again, we want to have a running total of all of our information for each of these categories. That way, at the end of the year, when we want to make adjustments to our budget or anything like that, we can look at the total and say, hey, this car payment is pretty expensive. Is there some way we can reduce how much we pay in our cars each year? So again, we can look at this total at the end of the year. So in this case, again, we want to auto sum. So I've selected a particular cell. I'm going to click on auto sum, and you can see it automatically selects those for me. Because we've marked these as currency and it wants to select all the currency information, it doesn't go over to my title. It only selects everything within my currency. Now, if we hadn't changed that category for our data, if we had kept it as general, it would have selected everything and it would have become a mess because obviously car payment is not a value that you can add together. But in this case, because we changed all of our items to currency, now it'll automatically select those items for us. And again, hit enter, and we can see that for the year we spend $3,000 on our car. Same thing that we did on the bottom. We can do the same thing on the far right by clicking on that cell and then dragging down. We can see now, for some reason, there's a bunch of asterisk, or not asterisk signs, but hashtags. Well, in that case, if you ever see that, that's because there's not enough room for all of our data to appear in this column. So if that ever happens to you, don't worry, you're not losing your data or anything like that. Just go up to the very top, again, just like we did previously between O and P, and then double click on that bar and it will expand to the largest size that you have available. So we can start to see now that we've got all of our totals over there on the right-hand side. That is the total for each category. If we want to see a total spend, obviously the thing that we would want to do is we would want to auto sum each of those totals. So in that case, I can go down to the bottom again, drag that cell over so we can see our budget for the year that we're spending on all of our utilities, our home, and our car is $26,850. So obviously we would want to look about how we can adjust our budget going forward. But we can see that we've got a running total here. And what's really nice, let's say we get to April, for instance, and we were very conscientious about how much water we used, or maybe we didn't have to run the sprinkler system. We had a lot of rain, so we didn't have to use as much water as needed. If we go in and make adjustments, so maybe this bill, instead of being $175, it was $100. We enter that in, we can see automatically that the total at the bottom of our month updates, the total for our category has updated, and our running total has updated. So it's a great way for us to keep this updated every step along the way. Now, sum is just one of the many functions that we have available for us within Excel. So if you ever want to look through, obviously sum is a very easy one because obviously we're just adding a lot of this up. Let's talk about the different other functions that you have available to you. So within Excel, up on the Formulas tab, if we go over to Formulas, we can see, look at all these options that we have available for us. So we can see right here under Auto Sum, we've got the common ones that we'll see, so an average. So maybe we want to see our average that we spend per month. Well, why don't we go ahead and do that? In this case, let's create an average for our, well, we're going to know our car payment and our mortgage because obviously they're the same every month. But let's look at our average for our gas. So let's do a column next to total, and let's have that one called average. So we're going to have our average spend for each of these categories. Now I'm going to do the go over to Formulas, click on Auto Sum, and again, make sure you have your cells selected for the area that you want to include your function. In this case, I'll include the average. So you can see right now I've entered in average, but it also includes my total there, which I do not want. So if I want to adjust what this function is including, again, grab in the bottom right hand corner, if I can get it correctly, drag it over to just be January through December, because I don't want to include my total, because obviously the total is a large number and that will skew my average. So I would select each one of the items that I want, hit enter, and obviously this is no surprise because every single month the charge is $250. So the average is going to be $250. And then if I do the same thing for my mortgage, again, select the cell, drag down, we can see $1,500 for mortgage. Well, that's expected as well because that's how much we pay every single month. But we're going to start to see something different when we go to gas, water, and electric. So if we scroll down and drag that down to those other items, we can see that $162.50 is the average for gas per month. For water, it's $156.25, and for electric, it's $162.50. If we wanted to see the average of every single month that we have for our budget, drag down to that total line, and we can see, well, based on this, our average spend per month is $2,231. So now we know kind of what to expect going forward. So in the future, when we're making our budget, we can say, well, last year per month we spent about $2,231 per month. Is there some way that we can reduce this or save more or anything like that? So it's a great way for you to view that. Also, what you can do, you can go through here, you can do max, min. These are very common features. We also have really neat functionality for logical options, for financial, for math and trigonometry and stuff like that. So lots of really neat functionality that's available for you. So definitely go and use these options because again, it makes your work a lot easier to go through here and figure out these functions and without you having to do calculations on your own. Let Excel do the work for you and make your life a lot easier. All right, let's go in and build some charts and tables. So now that we've included our data here, we have our budget for per month, per category. Well, this is very convenient for a chart and a table. So why don't we go in and start looking about how we can visualize our data to be better. So let's head over to Excel, back to our Excel spreadsheet. We've got our budget here. All right, at any time, if you want to make this a table, you can go up to, sorry about that, my cursor was on the wrong screen. So we're going to go over to Insert. On the Insert tab, we can see we have Table available to us. What I want to do is I want to actually just click on Table. So when I click on Table, it'll say, hey, where's your data for this table? And right now, because I had selected those items beforehand, that's what shows up right now in this Create Table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Cancel because I don't want to do that right now, and I'm just going to select a random cell. So now if I click on Table, we can see it automatically goes and grabs my information for me. But what I want to do, I want to make sure it includes this total down here too, because that's all part of our information. So in this case, if I want to select particular information, I could go here and type in the particular columns and and cells that I want. But what you can also do, you can see this little arrow here. If I click on the arrow, it allows me to select exactly what I want included in the table. So in this case, I select everything that I want within my table. That looks pretty good. Hit the down arrow again. I also want to select that my table has headers, because obviously my table does have headers. It has categories, it has title, it has each of my months. So I want to make sure that I have that selected and click OK. We can see now that it actually changes the look and feel of our budget here. We've got nice colors here. We've got drop downs. It allows us to filter each of these items. Well, let's take a look at these filters and see how cool they are. Okay, far left hand side, we've got our categories. Obviously, we've just got car, home, and then utilities. But we can obviously see as we start to get more and more items included in our budget, maybe we have a lot more utilities than we do obviously car and home payments. Well, in that case, from the categories, I can click on that down arrow. I can obviously sort it to appear a certain way, but I can also select a particular category. So in this case, every single category is selected so it shows up. Well, in this case, I just want to have utilities show up. Maybe I just want to see the utilities. So in this case, I would deselect, select all, and then go down and select utilities, and then click OK. We can see in the background it changes. We can see only our utilities there. But obviously my total is gone now because it's also an option available to us within categories. So if I want to see total remain there, I can always select the total and click OK. But we're obviously seeing an issue already right here in that this is the total again for that entire column. It doesn't update as I adjust my table. So I want to do something a little bit different here. So in that case, I want to create an auto sum of whatever's being shown up here as the table adjusts. So again, I'm going to go over here to auto sum. Click on auto sum. I don't want it to include. Sorry about that. I don't want it to include I don't want it to include my totals. So what I'm going to select is just the items that I want. So in this case, too few arguments. Interesting. All right. Okay, yeah, so that's what's going on. So as you enter in subtotal, so if I were to go again to auto sum this item, if I go to auto sum, we can see it includes everything and includes January only. So everything that's included within January, so again, that's all those previous items. So everything within that column is automatically included in here. So it gives you a benefit in that it includes all that information for you. It's easy for you to reference other items, but it does make it hard for you to go back and adjust later on. So in this case, if I wanted to see the total that was spent on a particular category, I could just go through here and select it all and see, oh, okay, the sum was just 300. But if I wanted to add multiple months or anything like that, you could see how easy it was right there within our function. It said January. I could add January and February, and then it would combine those two items. So it does make it easier for us to run a function afterwards. But in this case, let's go back here and go to select all. And so now we can see our entire view again and see all of our information. So we've got a nice table here where we can see each of these items. We can see how we can filter each of our categories to go down and see our information a little bit better. But this is a very nice table here that can be included into a chart, obviously, because we have our payments by month. We can see our spend by month and see how it tracks going forward. So within Excel, all I have to do is just select anywhere within this table, and what we can do is go up to Insert. So when we go up to click on Insert, we can see we have the ability over here on the not far right, but in the middle, we have the ability to include charts. Now, I could go through here and figure out a particular chart that I want to include, but let's let Excel do a little bit of work for us, and it has recommended charts. So based on your information that you have within your spreadsheet, you can obviously create a recommended chart. So in this case, I'm just going to have it create one for me. Let's take a look. We can see right here we have, it'll sum it by months, which I may not want. Some by, I don't want that. So in that case, I don't like the recommended items, so I can go over to all charts. And maybe I want to see this by month. That looks pretty good. Let's do I don't like the bar chart either. So let's do column or line. Let's see, I like that one. Let's do that one. So in that case, I can select a particular chart that I like, and I can hover over it to see better if I like it. Yeah, that looks okay. And I would select that item and click OK. And we'll see that it will drop in a chart into our Excel spreadsheet. So now we are able to provide a visual based on our information up above. Now let's see. If I want to adjust anything within my chart, we can see if I select the chart, chart tools are available to us up above. With this, we can add additional elements, we can do quick layouts, we can change colors. So in this case, if I wanted to change the colors, I could go down to a monochromatic blue, and that looks really bad. It offers no distinguishing colors between each of the items. So in this case, I might want to select one where it provides me a little bit of distinguished capability. So in that case, let's keep the colorful one that we had for the very first item. We can also change the backgrounds, the chart styles. So if I want to see what a particular chart looks like, just hover over it and it will adjust it down below. If we want it to be a black background, we can see what that will look like. But I liked the one that came in just with our creation of the chart. Now, the way this was created, we have our columns and our rows. So obviously we can see that by January and all this stuff, all the months are the lines. If I want to switch those at any time, I can go over to switch row column. So if I click on switch row column, we can see that now we can see each one of those items as it appears. So we can see in our chart here that that's kind of skewed because we have our totals and we have our utilities, and then at the far right we have total and average, and it's making our chart look a little skewed, and we can't really see closer in on our data. So we can always filter our chart after we've created it. We can go over here to chart filters, and we can see every single thing that's selected. So in this case, I want to see just the total, because I want to see the total every single month along the way. But also for categories, I only want to see each of the months. I don't want to see title. I don't want to see the total and average at the very end of the year. I want to see it just over every single one of the months. So in this case, I'm going to deselect title, go down here and deselect total and average, and then apply those filters. As soon as I do that, we're getting a nice chart here. We can see our totals every single month along the way. So again, in January, we can hover over and we can see, okay, yeah, it was 2,050. We can also see our highest month was August. We can see it was 2,525. So we can see the peak, and we can also see the low point of the year. So we can see in December it goes down to $2,025. So we can see our budget every step along the way. So it's a great way for you to visualize your data. What's really nice about this, again, this is applicable for our scenario here is a home budget, but let's talk about perfect scenarios for your work situation. You create a chart from a table of data that you have for your work. Well, in that case, you go over here, you can copy this chart. If you just right-click on it and click on copy, you can go into a PowerPoint presentation. You can paste this with link, and what that will do is as you update this Excel spreadsheet with new data as it comes in, your chart will also update back in that PowerPoint. So it creates a lot less work for you. So you can have one location that is updated every single time. So as you go in and update that Excel, every single scenario where you have your chart as it appears, it will update too. So it's a great way to reduce the amount of work that you have on yourself. Instead of every single time things are updated, going through and copy and pasting and updating, you don't have to do that. You can just do it one time and that's it. So now that we've created our charts and our tables, we now want to be able to store this securely out to our OneDrive. Why do we want to do that? Well, if we were to take our Excel at any time, our Excel workbook, our Excel workbook, and send it out to our colleagues, the issue with that is that then if somebody else makes an adjustment, now you are working on a totally separate copy than your colleague is, and we're all working on different copies. That is not necessarily a great situation you want to be in. So a great way to change that is to store it securely on your OneDrive. That way you can share out with your colleagues, and then you could all work on the same copy of the Excel workbook rather than each one having their own separate one. So let's talk about storing it securely to OneDrive. So from our Excel workbook, we want to save this information, obviously. So I've done all this work. I obviously should have been saving along the way. So I would click Save and then go to Save As. So we can see right now that I have saved down my personal OneDrive down to my laptop. So in this case, I would click on to my personal OneDrive. So at any time, again, OneDrive is free for you. You get a free 5 megabyte storage, I believe. So in that case, go out and you can get a Outlook or a Live ID, and then get your free storage space out in the cloud. So we go to my OneDrive personal. I can save it there. So this is going to be Excel Demo is going to be the title, and I'm going to click Save. So now that I've saved this out to my OneDrive, we can see it's currently saving out to the cloud storage location. Now that I've saved this, I can now share effectively, and we can all work on the same copy. So now that we've securely stored our items out to OneDrive, and again, if you store out to OneDrive, this does not mean it's automatically shared with everyone. It is not shared with anyone until you actually go out there and physically click on Share. So you don't have to worry about your data accidentally being shared inadvertently. So now let's talk about sharing and collaboration. Again, with all of our Microsoft tools, Word, PowerPoint, anything like that, we have the ability to share those items. So right here, directly from the Excel, if I want to share, I could always go up to File and then click on Share. I could do it that way. And you can see right here it comes up with Share with People. But also from the main screen here, upper right-hand corner, there's a Share button. I can click on Share and include anyone that I want. So in this case, maybe I want to share it with somebody on my team. So I would select somebody's name. In this case, I would share it with myself. I can give edit or view access. So if I give somebody edit access, they can come in here, they can make changes. I would see those changes, and based on the settings within OneDrive, I could actually be made aware of when those changes are made. Or I can give them view access. View access allows them to open up the Excel, open it down within the Excel desktop client, but they cannot make any changes to any of the data. So they would just be able to view it. Now, as soon as you give them a certain level of access and you click Share, you can always remove that access later on. You can then change it to, let's say you gave them edit access initially, you can change that to view. You can also remove their access completely. So you are in complete control of the access that you give everyone on your team. Now, what's really nice about sharing these items is the fact that we are all working in the same edition of this Excel. Whereas if you were to email this out, everyone has their own copy. Any changes that are made, they're not reflected across everyone's copy. So what's really nice, as people would come in here and start making changes, you would actually receive a notification up here in the upper right-hand corner that will let you know that additional people are in that exact same spreadsheet. So it's a really nice way to collaborate with your team and also reduce the amount of errors that occur with just emailing these items out. So it's a great way for you to maintain that. Last but not least, what I want to call out, within all of our products here at Microsoft, we have this ability to search for particular items. So up here in the top, we can see there's a tell me what you want to do. You can type anything you want to do up there. So maybe you're looking for that auto sum, even though on the home tab here, you can see auto sums right there. If you are looking for a particular item, you can just start to type in auto sum, and we can see that there it is. It comes up right there. So at any time, if you're looking for a particular item to complete within Excel or any of our products, you can go up to the Tell Me and search for a particular item. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. Hopefully you learned a couple of new things to incorporate with your Excel usage. Again, it's a great tool. It's a very powerful tool. We just scratched the surface today, but I'm hoping that you can take a few items that you learned today here, start incorporating it into your everyday work life and personal life, and use it to greater abilities. And thank you again for joining, and have a good one.